I got to ask you, have you felt like your life has kind of been maybe not a lie, but not lived out as your heart and your soul have told you that it was supposed to be lived out? That could include being in the wrong marriage. It could include a dysfunctional family that you've let stay in your life. Today's author we're going to be talking to, it's about transitioning from male to female. And I think that if you are going through a struggle other than transitioning, you're going to see a lot of parallels. I was kind of blown away when I read this book. I'm excited to bring in Katie Louise Miller. Book is called Night and Day. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you.
The thing that really struck me about your book is, first of all, your passion and your heart and your realness and your fierce. And as I said in the beginning, this while we might not be transitioning, we're all transitioning in some way, aren't we? Whether
Mm.
that means we're getting divorced or we have made a decision to let someone out of our life that's toxic. I want to kind of keep everybody tied in that way, because this really isn't just for people who are interested in transitioning from
Mm.
male to female or female to male. Would you talk about your book and how it applies to so many situations?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's really, for me, Suzanne, it's a journey really of discovery from the age of 6. I wanted to be a girl. At the age of 6, long story really. My father had left home. My mother hated men. I was a very sickly boy. And when I was 6, she couldn't go to work to earn money. So we were very tight on finances. And she loved her daughters, my 2 sisters. And she told her girls to hate men and not to get involved with men. And so I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be cared for. And I wanted her love. And I felt that if I was a girl, she might love me. She might like me. She might help me in the same way she helped my 2 sisters. That was at 6 years of age. That stuck with me all my life. That wanting to be loved and accepted really has been the goal for my life.
That is a powerful story, and I can't help but say that I'm so sorry for the pain that you've been
Mm.
through. But when I think about you, Katie, the word fierce comes to mind,
Mm.
and I'm just so proud that you're taking actions, you're taking control of your life, and that's such a great lesson for all of us.
Yes.
Really, what is your book about? When somebody picks it up, kind of lay out what we can expect a little bit.
Okay, well, basically, it starts very young, age 6. That whole story I mentioned a second ago, and then we move on through my teenage years, going to school, and being sick all the time. I couldn't do sports, and so I had to stick around with the girls in class and what have you, who were also not doing sports. And I got very close to girls, and they liked me. I liked them. Boys we didn't play because I wasn't doing anything. I couldn't do anything, and so I kind of got very close to girls, and I again, this is reinforcing my wanting to be a girl, and so I really sort of stuck with them and became good friends with them. And I used to run home sometimes and skip off school and wear my sister's school uniform. She had the same uniform. I wear that uniform secretly to be like them. And I think uniforms, I just realized later in life, uniforms are a sense of belonging. You belong to something if you wear the
Oh,
same uniform.
wow, it sure does.
And there's a sense of belonging then. When I wore that uniform, I belonged to girlhood or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a boyfriend at school. We had fun together, just as young kids, really, a boyfriend, girlfriend type thing.
Mm.
And then when I was 18, just in high school, really, leaving high school, my mum found out, and that's when kind of the whole world collapsed in on me. So for 12 years, I've been living this life, living this lie,
That's a
really.
long time.
Yes, yes, yes. And there's no help available. I mean, there's nowhere to go. This is the 60s, yeah, the 70s. There's no one there to go and talk to. My GP wouldn't see me without my parents, and I couldn't talk to them without my parents. It was just crazy. I felt trapped, totally trapped, Suzanne, in that lifestyle.
Katie, you were talking about it being the 60s and 70s. Where did you go for support? Was there anyone?
No, no one. I felt shameful. No boys did this. I didn't know anyone else in the world did this. I thought I was the only boy in the world who wanted to be a girl. So I had nowhere to go that I could go. I couldn't talk to a teacher, and they would tell my parents. It was really my secret. Even from my sisters, was wearing their clothes some of the times, and they didn't know either. So I learned to be very secretive. I learned very cleverly how to avoid being caught, and I would be very careful covering my tracks. And I became very, very concerned about not being discovered, because I felt if I was discovered, I'd be stopped or taken some asylum or somewhere or whatever. And I wanted to continue the journey, and so it's my secret, and I didn't want to become known. And when my mum found out, it kind of, the way it helped, I mean, she called me queer, which is a
Oh,
great thing to be called at that age, 18 years of age. Mum calls you queer. Different generation, different age, I appreciate.
of
But
course.
she was really upset, but said no more about it. There's no discussion. There's no, well, let's talk about this. Let's have a chat. Let's have a understand how this is working for you and can I help you? There's none of that. It's just basically you're queer. Carry on, do as you like. I'm not happy.
Katie, I have to ask you, I mean, you're keeping this huge secret. Did that affect the rest of your life? I mean, did that affect everything else, this big secret? When you're keeping something that big, it's got to be a domino effect,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it's still a secret today, Suzanne. There's not many people know about me. This is my fear. My biggest fear now is the next step for me is living full time and working full time as a woman before I can have a sex reassignment surgery. That's the way it works. My family know. My sisters both know. My mum and dad both passed. They knew. My wife now knows. My wife then knew. As long
So
as
go ahead and talk to me about the differences of the two wives.
Yes, yeah, they couldn't be more different, really. My first wife, I mean, she caught me, and in the same way my mum caught me, really, and she was curious to know why I wanted to do that, and she said, "Well, go away and wear you want and come down, and I'll do you some makeup, and we'll see how we go from there." So she was very keen to try and maybe try and put me off. I don't know, but so I dressed as best I could. I came down. She then showed me to do makeup, and she said, "Well, this is okay by me. If you need to do this, I understand. You're my husband. I love you. We have two lovely kids. I don't want to lose you. So, um, you know, just feel free." And so she gave me permission to dress when she was out, wearing her clothes. And she'd come back, and I was trying to make sure I was dressed when she came back, and we would sit and talk, have coffee, whatever. And kids were never involved, of course. That was important to her and to me also. Um, and this went on for about 15 years or so. Just dressing. We dressed together sometimes. She would buy me clothes. She'd buy me underwear. I mean, she was like a sister in many ways, and a very special lady. And we performed normal relations as well. I mean, that was part of that's part of the marriage too. But there came a time when I realized that this wasn't enough. Even though my wife was supportive, and even though I was dressing when I wanted, I didn't look like I should look. I didn't feel like I put the clothes on. I could see a man, a guy in a frock or whatever, a guy in a dress. I was the wrong shape. I was angular. I just wasn't right. And I started to get really concerned about that and quite depressed about that. And my wife and I decided we need to get some specialist help. There was help available then. This is like back in 2001, 2002.
Okay.
So I got to see a specialist, and he listened for 5 minutes to me talking about why I felt the way I did and how I felt and so on. And he just put his hand up to stop me. He didn't go further. You're a late onset transsexual woman. A late onset transsexual, it's a bit of a mouthful, but late onset being it happens in your 40s, and you're transsexual and you're a woman. And I'm telling you now, he said, you won't find peace unless you become a woman. So he's quite heavy on that. And that really, in some ways, I was quite pleased about that, because at least I had a diagnosis now, and they explained everything. The previous 40 years of my life or whatever, it was then explained, could be explained. And I felt good about that. I went home and told my wife, and she was not so pleased, because clearly she didn't realize she thought it was just a phase. And it didn't change our relationship at that time. But she actually came to the point where she wanted to go for it, to become a woman, to transition, and was pushing me and encouraging me to do that. And I said, "Well, yeah, I can do that, but what about us?" She said, "Well, there can be no more us. You're my husband, but you're going to be a woman, so that's not going to happen. We have to part." And I couldn't bear to part with her. I've been together nearly 20 odd years, and I couldn't bear to part with her. So I then tried to not transition. I tried to go back to being a man, being a guy, and throw everything away and all the rest of it. But she wasn't having any of it. And she said, "Look, unless you agree to transition, we're going to separate. I'm going to go." And I said, "But why are you going to go?" "I'm going to go because you won't be a woman. You're a woman. You should need to be a woman. And the doctor said that to you. So you must be a woman.
Mm.
And I'm getting in the way of that. So I'm out of here." So she left.
Lots of turmoil.
Yeah.
Lots of turmoil.
Oh,
Yes. And then
gosh.
your second wife.
Yeah, second of all, because then I had some years on my own, and I was there on social media. I met lots of girls like me, and a lot of support coming in and understanding what it was going to be like and what to do and where to go and all the rest of it. Get lots of advice and things. And I quite liked it. And I bumped into my second wife in church, and she was in tears in the lobby. And I went across. I'm now a guy, of course, and I went across to her and said, "What's the problem?" And she So I see all these people in church, and they're all perfect marriages and perfect lives, and I said, they're not at all perfect. There's many marriages in there that are not perfect. We're all inhuman, imperfect. And I sat with her for about an hour while the service was going on, and she dried her tears and went home. She came back the following week, wanted to see me. We sat down again, had coffee, and I grew very close to her. I love helping people, and I guess I was helping her. And as I was helping her, I was drawing close to her.
Sure.
Um,
That's kind of what
and
your book is doing, though, is that you're helping
yes,
people. What
yes,
would you say to a mom or dad that sees some of these signs in their children?
I would say get help. Seriously, get help when they're young. The problem I had, as you perhaps aware, Suzanne, is I was 40 years old when I was diagnosed. If I was diagnosed at 14, I wouldn't go through puberty as a boy. I would go through puberty as a girl. That's what happens today. So help's available today for young people, and the confusion, gender confusion, doesn't go away. Um, and um, and I actually came to I did my book, and I on one of my blogs I wrote that I thought my fantasy was to be a woman. Actually, my fantasy is to be a man, and that really struck me as quite profound, because I was living a life that's fantasy, trying to be a man when in fact I needed to be a woman. And so
Mm.
it doesn't go away. It gets harder, and it gets more desperate, and you need help, and help's available. And so I'd encourage any parent going through that not to hold back, not to think it'll go away. It won't go away. Get the help. It may be temporary. They'll find out.
And certainly don't name, call, or judge or label.
No, oh no, definitely don't call them queer.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
yeah.
That's just dreadful.
How is your transition going right now, and what's your plan?
Uh, yeah, pretty good. I'm very pleased with things. I'm obviously never totally satisfied, but I have a lot of things happening. I have a pair of breasts which are quite large, which is surprising. I didn't realize that they'd be so large. So it's getting hard to hide them as a guy. So that's quite interesting.
Mm.
I've got what HRT I'm on. You get HRT, and HRT just changes your body. It moves fat around your body. And I've now got, I guess most women would hate to have this, but I've got fat around my thighs, around my hips, and my booty is getting big. So, and my waist is getting thinner. So the fat's been distributed to my thighs and into my lower regions, and that's giving me more shape. I love that
Of
shape.
course, sure, sure.
I hardly shave now. That's unfortunately I still shave my face twice a week maybe, but the hair on my arms and legs is gone. The hair on my head's got thicker, so it's really
Very interesting.
yeah. And I'm a real peace in the world, And I've stopped to study the transition several times when I'm fearful about what could happen. But I've now been going full time for 2 years. I'm now at the point now of booking my appointment for the SRS, the sex reassignment surgery. And the big step for me now is to then come out into the world and get a job as a woman and live as a woman. My wife is aware. My second wife knows about this, but she doesn't want to know. And she says, that's your thing. I understand that that these things happen. I don't want to know. I've got 2 boys growing up. I don't want to know about this, find out about this. So you do what you got to do, but I want nothing to do with it. So she's very much the opposite to my first wife.
Right,
Right. And that's okay. That's okay. She
yeah.
knows
Everybody handles things different, right?
yeah, exactly. I can't expect anyone to accept this. It is quite as a husband certainly. So she's aware that I'm transitioning. She's aware that at some stage we will probably have to part because I can't have boys and the rest of it. So we're kind of.
So your children don't know.
No, my own kids know, but her kids don't know.
Okay. Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a boy and a girl, and they both
Okay.
know. They're very supportive. It's really good, very pleasant.
Katie, I got to know: is there going to be a sequel?
Yes, I've been thinking about this long and hard, Suzanne, and I think the sequel will be based on my book, but it'll be about regret. It'll be about those decisions. Regret's a very personal thing. You can't have regret for somebody else. It's your own regret. And in the book, you'll read various situations where I made a decision for the family or for this or for that, and that was a wrong decision for me. And I regretted those decisions now. And so I'm going to go back and look at regret and what could have happened had I not turned that corner and gone the other way and stayed on the course I was on, and try and take the lead reader through that process of going through that journey in one go, in one movement, rather than stopping, starting, going left, coming back, turning right, trying to satisfy everybody else, trying to make everyone else happy, trying to deny yourself if that makes them happy. It's really difficult, and all that regret is in the book. It's not said regret, it's not called regret, but there's pieces in there, stories in there which are full of regret for me personally. And my biggest regret isn't the fact I couldn't get help sooner. And when I got help, My wife was important to me. The guy was saying to me, "You must transition." I couldn't do that for her. I wanted to be her husband, and she left me. And then I got a second wife 2 or 3 years later. So this wife doesn't want me to do it. So she's aware of it, but doesn't want me to do it. But so she's aware of it, and it will happen. So I feel, there's a lot of regret, a lot of pain, a lot of good times too. I learned a lot about myself. I've been dating guys, for goodness sake. That's incredible. Um, and um, and someone asked me about guys. They said to me, are you gay? I says, well, no. I says, I don't look at guys and say, I fancy that guy or I fancy this guy. It's when a guy affirms me as a woman, that then turns me on to him because he's recognizing I'm a woman. And that's a man-woman thing rather than a guy-guy
Yeah.
thing.
You
So,
want to be beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, and
Where
appreciate it.
where do you think you would be now as we begin to wrap up this interview? Where would you be in your headspace and in your heart, in your mind, if you had just kept living that lie?
I'm fairly sure I'll be a happily married, hopefully happily married woman with a husband. Obviously, no kids. That won't happen. But yeah, living with a guy as my husband, looking after me looking after him, and having been married maybe for 15, 20 years,
Mm,
that'd be the kind of thing. That'd be ideal. I would love to have a husband and
mm,
look after a husband
mm.
because that's my reward for him.
Well, I wish you just wonderful, happy, joy-filled life. And tell us where your book is available.
It's available from virtually anywhere, online anywhere. I think Amazon and Waterstones in UK, Barnes and Noble US. Many it's on the line. You find the website. Probably Amazon's the most place. It's available as an ebook. I've got a copy here. You've just seen the cover. Probably you've seen the cover. There's the book,
Beautiful,
and
beautiful.
174 pages. Yeah, sequel is required because the book actually ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. I,
Oh,
I I've gone through a process where I was going through the psychology of everything. I did some psychology research, and there's a very famous psychologist, and he was saying that there's these stages, and I'm a stage 2, not stage 3. And stage 2 is kind of you could or you may not, and it's that kind of indecision. And my indecision is probably largely due to my fear of not knowing. I think, and I'm fairly sure, once people know, once I take the courage to step out, and
sure,
come out,
sure.
it'll fall into place. So it's a good. I hope a good read. I've had lots of good comments back from it from people who bought it and they've read it and they want copies to their kids and all the rest of it. So it's been well read and well liked.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. Katie Louise Miller, writing the book Night and Day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you very much.